So we often get a lot of questions about tempering chocolate, and I'll be honest with you, we still temper it by hand a little bit for demos, but for the most part, we use this workhorse machine here. This is a tempering machine. So I thought this morning what I would do is just walk you through how this actually works. So this machine actually accomplishes all the steps in tempering, but it does it automatically. And it works because we melt out all of the crystals that are present in chocolate here because we keep it warm. This is probably close to 45 degrees or 50 degrees Celsius down here. And then this machine has an auger. So at the back, there's actually a pump that really kind of spins and it augers the chocolate up to the top where it comes out the spigot here. Now, as it's moving up, it actually does some cooling. And that cooling introduces the opportunity for crystals to form. So by the time the chocolate comes out here, it's actually only about 30 degrees. So what we've done, if you follow the rules of tempering chocolate, which are time, temperature, and movement, we've started at this right temperature with no crystals here. We've taken our time to pump the chocolate up here, and we've lowered the temperature, which induces the crystals here. Now, the cool thing about this machine, compared to doing this at home and when we do it on a table, is that this chocolate is in really good temper. So if we made something with it, it would be crispy and it would be shiny and it would be beautiful, but it would also continue to crystallize and become hard to work with. So what we do is we drop it back down into the spigot here in this bucket, and it melts back down to the 50-degree temperature, and we start the process all over. We actually call this continuous tempering, meaning that we're continuously tempering the chocolate, we're detempering it. We're tempering it and we're detempering it, which means it can run all day long and not over-temper, meaning not get too thick for us to actually work with. Now, a couple of things about the settings. This machine has a couple of other things that are kind of cool going on. First thing is it's got some attachments here, which we can use to mold chocolate. So let me grab a molder quick. So this would be like a typical chocolate mold. And so what our chocolatier would do is they would temporarily stop the flow, fill this mold, flood it, and then they would put it here and let it vibrate. So this has a vibrate state. It's kind of loud, so I'm going to turn it off for a second. And what that does is all the bubbles, it's kind of loud. All the bubbles that are present in this bottom of the chocolate will float to the top, and so we'll have a very smooth edge here. The second thing is that if we're doing a filled chocolate, the chocolatier can either take a scraper and scrape it off, or we can dump it upside down and actually lay it on the scrapes. This machine even has a scraper built in here where you can actually scrape it here. And then when we're done, it's not always mandatory, but we would usually put these on a table like this so that they would dry and have a thicker kind of coating around the top and not as much on the bottom. That's how we use the tempering machine. We do it over and over again. So that's kind of how the system works. Right over here. So that's this thing. The second thing is this machine actually has heaters built into here because, as you can imagine, chocolate's kind of dirty. So when you get chocolate everywhere, we like to work clean. So we actually have a heater which warms this up and melts any chocolate that has here back down into the bowl. It allows us to basically conserve chocolate. Now, we can change this machine, and we do actually change it. Sometimes we change the chocolate out, and the tempering numbers will actually be different, and we will actually change them. Sometimes we actually change them depending on what function we're doing. If we're enrobing chocolates, we might want it to be a little warmer. If we're actually making shells, we might actually want it to be a little bit cooler. White chocolate's going to have a different number coming out of the spigot than milk chocolate than dark chocolate, so we can control that by these settings here. So this setting controls the bottom of the box. Right now it's 48.8 degrees Celsius, and it's 30.8 degrees Celsius coming out of the spigot here. Now, very simple machine to operate. Basically, this turns on the heater of the machine, this turns on the spinner to keep it mixed up, this turns on the spigot, and this turns on the cooler. Now, at the end of the day, you might be tempted to come along here and say, I'm done, I'm going to just go home, and so you can turn off the cooler and turn off the pump. But that's a disaster. You don't want to do that because the chocolate that's inside this auger is in temper. And if we do that, it will crystallize. So what we do is we actually turn off the cooler, we let the chocolate, this warm chocolate now, which we're not cooling anymore, start to warm the back of the machine. And when this hits about 35 or 38 or something, we'll turn off the spigot. Second thing we try to do is we try not to add chocolate to this when we're actually working. If we do, we add it melted. So we actually have another machine kind of in the back that's huge. It holds like 50 kilograms of melted chocolate all the time. So if we need extra chocolate in here, we'll actually pour it in here, melted. At the end of the day, we might put a block of chocolate in here. We might put some pellets in here to let it melt overnight. But during the day, we don't want to do that because we don't want it accidentally sucked up into this auger and all of a sudden a piece of chocolate comes out. And if we're doing a mold, that would be kind of a bad day. This is a workhorse in a chocolate factory. Honestly, today, if you're doing production chocolates, it's just almost impossible to be able to make chocolate without an automated tempering machine. You can do it. I did it for a long time, like 20 years. But to be honest with you, this machine makes it a lot better. We actually have a bunch of these and we devote them for different colors. So this is obviously dark chocolate. We've got one for milk chocolate. We've got one for white chocolate. Why? Well, a lot of reasons. We don't want to cross-contaminate dairy into this because we try to keep track for allergens. And secondly, white chocolate, well, it's white. And so if you try to get it around dark chocolate, milk chocolate, it'll never be white. So we try to keep it separated as well. And of course, we have a huge machine that we use to power some of our barring machines where we need lots of volume of tempered chocolate. So anyway, fantastic machine. It does have a few attachments. The most common attachment is an enrobing belt, which we can put here and actually run chocolates through here. And I'll talk about that in another video, but I hope you've been introduced to this little meeting of our chocolate tempering machine.